but I made a couple changes to make it a little even cleaner, and but it takes a minute to implement those. So I had a wire going across the back of the engine. Now I've eliminated 2 more wires across the back of the engine, and I'm just trying to separate the engine wiring from the chassis wiring. And if you ever want to pull a motor, it'll be basic. You pull the engine harness and the motor can come, or you disconnect it, or you can pull it with the computer. You pull a couple grounds, the whole thing should come out. The purpose of this is to make the electrical serviceable too, because if I'm going to support like my own work, I got to make it so I can fix it in the future, and I'll be digging and stuff and cutting and doing all kinds of stuff. So I try to make this as serviceable as possible. I guess that's more geared towards me, but then I'll hopefully go over with the customer when we're all done, and I'll kind of point out how it's laid out and go over where everything is. And then that way, if there's ever an issue, we can communicate a little better on this particular project. And then I got a project map, a rough idea in a spreadsheet or something, plus all these videos. And I'll be able to go back and see maybe if there was any issues, or an add-on, or want a bigger alternator. It would make it easy. Just all you gotta do is change the alternator wire. The charging wire, it's like a 4-foot piece of wire. You want to do some other side rather than just wrapping the wire in all these different places and hiding it. We're trying to do stuff like that. So like upgradable feature wires, fuel pump, same thing. Like you want a bigger fuel pump or more fuel pump or whatever, we'll give you up to like the fuse rating, obviously, but then after that, it's not so unmodular that you can't get it all thrown in there. So it'll be real nice to work on in the future, I think, which hopefully won't be too much. But yeah, and I got some other exciting stuff to do on the truck. Just haven't been doing as much stop motion video. Last week I had the flu. I was like firing out of both ends. Awful. You didn't want to hear that? That's just real life, though, as a human, unfortunately. So that's the way it is. I put I think a 180, 185 in my wagon, and it turns out that the motor wants to still run at like, what you see on the gauge, and my temperature sensor's in the back of the engine on the passenger side, like back here, and it still wants to run about 200 to 210. It never overheats. It runs a little warm. So I'm gonna throw a 160 in here and keep this down about 180. I've been told that by a handful of people, that to get these to run at a lower temperature, which we all know makes a little better power and stuff like that, where all that's concerned. So you got this mass airflow sensor. That's what this is for y'all in the cheap seats. Here you go. Mass airflow sensor. This is off your basic truck, right? The thing is this is a bunch of weird sizes, okay? And you want to put all normal shit on your rig. All right. So here's what you do. You buy that Spectre Performance part. It has a thick band for this side, and it actually fits in the notch, so it gets on pretty secure. You get a little thin band for this side, and then you can just use 4-inch piping for it. So you got a nice, piece of pipe. The other thing is, with a mass airflow sensor, typically you want to have, 2 times the pipe diameter before and after or so. So if you got a 4-inch pipe, maybe 8 inches in front, 8 inches behind, straight. I'm not sure about the honeycomb, if that don't matter on the front side, but I've had experiences in the past working with DSMs with some friends, and we had some bends in the pipe, and above like 4,500 RPM, it started moving a whole bunch of air, and it was just too turbulent, and it screwed it all up. I don't remember what mass airflow sensor we was using, but you know, it was with that mass airflow translator, or it was with one of the aftermarket chip deals like DSM Link, I think, or something. It was been a while. A little bit of straight pipe before and after. If we find out it don't matter in front of the honeycomb, then so be it. So anyway, that's what we got here. I use this nice air raid plastic kit. And I'll put links to both of those in the description in case people are curious. I mean, it's just 4-inch ABS. It comes in a big like loop with a bunch of bends and a bunch of you know, marked places you can cut it with little beads on it. So, and it turns out it makes a really nice intake pipe. You know, you go have it fabricated somewhere if that's what your options are. You know, this works great. So, I mean, I used to build roller molds a while back, and actually K&N used to they actually used to build them there. So, I mean, if you really want to know how the roller mold's made, I'll tell you how to make a roller mold. I'll tell you, it's super simple. Ready? This part probably costs, I don't know what it weighs in plastic, in little plastic beads. And they put it inside a giant aluminum mold, okay? And the aluminum mold is made the shape of this thing, plus the shrinkage of the mold, which is usually 13 thousandths per inch. Some IDs don't shrink as much, especially in the plastic side. The aluminum will usually shrink. So the mold is made out of like imagine a wall of aluminum around this whole pipe, about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, okay? And then they just shoot fire all around it after it's all cleaned up, you know, and it's a good mold, obviously. It's got 2 halves. Parting line, that's what that line is called. And that's like half of this and half of this. So a circle, you have to cut it in half to be able to pull the top and the bottom off of it, right? You know, and it's got to have what they call a draft, and that's a slope on the side, so it pulls out, you know, like a pail. A straight pail would be harder to make a sandcastle with than one with draft on it, or, you know, more cone-like. But anyway, same thing applies. Half circle's not too bad. That's why there's a line down the middle of it. That's the parting line of the mold, of the pattern, etc. And the pattern's just made from making all these pieces, possibly out of wood, possibly, you know, CNC cut, you know, 100 different ways you can make the original. And then, but then you got to sand cast it. And for quick stuff, you know, the foundry I worked at, you know, I don't think we use green sand, they use CO2 sand. You can use whatever works, you know, and maybe it's because of the shapes, because of the speed, because of the size of the foundry. I'm not even sure. They didn't have a reclaim, I don't know. But anyway, it goes in a big oven that rotates it, roto-mold. And yeah, and just a bunch of plastic beads they chuck in there, spin it around until they get a nice uniform thickness. They probably figure all that out, plus the heat. So, you know, it's what they call a thermoplastic. A thermoset is when you mix plastics and they come together and make something, you know, like the sum of 2 parts or more, 3, 4, you know, you could add fillers, you could add all kinds of stuff. That's a thermoplastic or a thermoset, and usually, and it creates heat when an exothermic reaction as it cures. And then we got the thermoset, I keep getting it mixed up. Thermoplastic here is a plastic you can heat up and bend. It's good for vacuum form, it's good for rotomolding, it's good for everything. So I don't think we're giving much away here as far as the process goes. I've worked in many industries, manufacturing, and that's just one of them. So, but anyway, as far as like getting a piece of aluminum, bending it up, making it, welding it, promoting somebody's welders, I'm telling you, you buy the crap on Amazon if that's what you're into. You know, if that's your mode of operandi, your modus operandi. And you can buy this plastic tubing, you can buy a Canon filter, you can buy this adapter, bam, you got an entire intake tube. And what we try to do here is, you know, a big fan of good air density for the engine. So we like to stuff that thing way away from the heat, and I'd even like to see it covered and protected from actually ingesting underhood air.
I don't know how far I'm gonna get to go with that because you know it's like that's just like extra stuff. So, anywho, that's just one thing that we can do, and yeah, we're gonna get into more stuff later because I've done plenty of testing with it just in the engine bay with the hood off. You know, you think you're doing good, it could be a lot better. I mean, definitely better. All right, well that's it. And look at this little guy. That's a rat, Jack.